Hey, hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Following my last videos where I did a preview for every NBA team in the West, I'm here going to do the same thing, but this time sharing my predictions for the 2021 Eastern Conference standings.
Yeah, ready?
Starting with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs do have a few players that could potentially carry the team, such as Kevin Love, Andre Drummond, or Colin Sexton. But the problem here in Cleveland is really their lack of depth. The Cavaliers have also finished near the bottom of the Western Conference since ever LeBron left, so I don't see why that would suddenly change, although I am curious to see how good the rookie Isaac Okoro is. Then we have the New York Knicks. The Knicks got a lot of young players who have some potential, with Julius Randle, Obi Toppin, RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, Dennis Smith Jr., Frank Ntilikina, Elfrid Payton, Kevin Knox, and Nerlens Noel, as well as some experienced players such as Alec Burks and Austin Rivers. But the Knicks' problem is that they don't have a true leader, and kind of like the Cavs, they have been bad for a while now.
Psych!
At number 13, we have the Detroit Pistons. I originally thought they would finish last because I assumed they would go into full rebuild mode, but with Detroit keeping Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose means they still actually have a decent roster. I don't have any particular expectations for Griffin after his injuries, but he was still an all-star in 2019, while Derrick Rose averaged over 18 points per game for those past two seasons. I'm personally excited about the 7th pick of the draft, Killian Hayes, coming to Detroit to team up with the other Pistons franchise player, Sekou Doumbouya. The Pistons were also able to sign Jeremy Grant to add more defense. Next up, we got the Chicago Bulls. A lot of people started to believe that the Bulls could make the playoffs after getting Billy Donovan as their new head coach. However, the East has actually gotten much better, so I think there's just too much good competition for Chicago to rank higher. If they want to hope for a spot in the postseason, the Bulls will need Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, Otto Porter, Thaddeus Young, Wendell Carter Jr., and Kobe White to all play well consistently. And outside of that, I'm interested to see of what the 4th pick of the 2020 draft, Patrick Williams, is made of. Following the Bulls, we have the Charlotte Hornets. Last year, pretty much everyone expected them to be the worst team in the NBA, but they actually managed to finish 10th in the Eastern Conference thanks to Terry Rozier remaining an efficient scorer as the team's leader and Devontae Graham having a breakout season. The Hornets are also welcoming two possible high-level players in Charlotte. They signed Gordon Hayward, and while he might be overpaid, don't forget he's still an all-star caliber player. Last year in Boston, he averaged 17.5 points, shooting 50% from the field and 38% from 3, along with 6.7 rebounds and 4.1 assists, as only the 4th option on his team. With the 3rd pick of the 2020 NBA draft, the Hornets were able to select LaMelo Ball, a skilled and talented player with a lot of potential who will bring hype to the small market that Charlotte is. To potentially trigger the play-in tournament, LaMelo and Hayward can count on the help of Terry Rozier, Devontae Graham, Miles Bridges, and PG Washington. Entering the top 10, we find the Orlando Magic. The Magic did manage to make the playoffs for those past two seasons, but as I said before, the East has now gotten very good. Aaron Gordon claims Orlando will finish higher than the 8th seed, but I really don't see that happening, especially with DJ Augustin being gone. The Magic do have a few decent to good players, such as Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, Evan Fournier, and Jonathan Isaac, or even Terrence Ross, Markelle Fultz, and possibly the rookie Cole Anthony. While Vucevic is the Magic's best player, their problem is that, just like the Knicks, they don't have a true clear leader. At number 9, we have the Indiana Pacers. They actually finished 4th in the East last season, but with the conference being significantly better, the Pacers dropped quite a few spots. For Indiana to make the postseason without too much difficulties, they would need their franchise player Victor Oladipo to play well, which I doubt is something they can really count on. This year, coming back from his injury, Oladipo only averaged 14.5 points, shooting 39.4% from the field, having an overall bad impact on his team. Fortunately for the Pacers, they have other good players, with Malcolm Brogdon at the point guard position, Miles Turner and the all-star Domantas Sabonis inside, the underrated TJ Warren, and their good complement, Jeremy Lamb. Now coming into the part with all the playoff teams, we find the Atlanta Hawks. Entering his 3rd year in the NBA, it looks like Trae Young will finally reach the postseason. The Hawks had a good offseason as they signed a lot of experienced players to surround their young franchise player who averaged 29 and 9 as just a 22-year-old. Danilo Gallinari and Bogdan Bogdanovic are there to improve Atlanta's three-point shooting. Rajon Rondo brings his veteran leadership and Chris Dunn adds more defense. Trey can also count on the help of Clint Capella inside the paint and John Collins, who gives over 21 points every night. And the Hawks have plenty of young players to develop, with Kevin Hertz, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, and the rookie Onyeka Okongwu. Next up, we got the Washington Wizards. The Wizards made a big move this offseason, sending away the player that was their leader for years, John Wall, to the Rockets, bringing Russell Westbrook to Washington. Now, I seriously doubt that Westbrook can actually help a team win the playoffs, but one thing is sure, Russ is a great regular season player, and that is notably why he won an MVP in the past, where he averaged a triple-double. So Westbrook is a player that will bring hype to Washington, and paired with Bradley Beal, he will definitely help the Wizards get to the postseason. Last season, Beal averaged 30, 4, and 6, carrying his team to the 9th seed all by himself. The Wizards do lack depth and defense, but Westbrook and Bradley Beal can count on the help of Davis Bertans, Robin Lopez, Thomas Bryant, Rui Hachimura, and the rookie Deni Avdija. At number 6, we have the Philadelphia 76ers. Last year, a lot of people had Philly coming out of the East, but they ended up being a huge disappointment. Now, there are some reasons to believe that they are going to do better, with Philly being able to get Doc Rivers as the new head coach and Daryl Morey as their GM, as well as trading for Danny Green and Seth Curry to help solve their spacing problems. But I believe the competition ahead is just too good for the 76ers to rank much higher, although they still got a talented team on paper. Ben Simmons does serve the Sixers spacing, but he remains an all-star who brings passing, rebounding, defense, and great transition plays. Joel Embiid has the potential to be an MVP candidate if he manages to stay healthy. Tobias Harris adds more scoring and shooting, but he has a hard time justifying his max contract, while Shake Milton and Matisse Thybulle are some good compliments. Entering the top 5, we find the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors managed really well Kawhi's departure as they finished second in the East and ended up with the third best record in the whole league. However, combining the fact that the top of the Eastern Conference is really talented and that Toronto will probably suffer the losses of Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka who left for both LA teams, this is why they're dropping a few spots. But I still got them in my top 5 because the Raptors remain a team with a solid starting 5 and great depth. Next up, we got the Boston Celtics. Over the last couple of years, Boston has seen free agents walk for nothing. It started with Kyrie Irving and Al Horford, and now Gordon Hayward left to join the Charlotte Hornets, which hurts even more the Celtics' depth issue. Now, with that being said, the Celtics do remain a very talented team. Last season, they managed to reach the conference finals again, thanks to the big leap Jason Tatum took. I expect Tatum to average over 25 points per game next season, potentially coming close to winning the scoring title and possibly ending up in the MVP conversation. Tatum forms a very good big three with the 2019 All-NBA third-team member Kemba Walker and the near All-Star Jaylen Brown. Marcus Smart is the team's defensive dog. Jeff Teague is there as a backup point guard, while Tristan Thompson and Daniel Theis are decent players at the center position. At number 3, we have the Miami Heat. Last season, the Heat were surprisingly good as they notably defeated the Bucks and Celtics to reach the NBA Finals. What makes them such a good team is that Miami has a very complete roster at every position. The Heat can count on their very good leader Jimmy Butler, the All-Star Bam Adebayo inside, Goran Dragic and Kendrick Nunn at the point guard position, Duncan Robinson, and Tyler Hero as the team's 3-point snipers, Andre Iguodala and Avery Bradley who bring a lot of defense, and their good complements for 3, Myers Leonard and Kelly Olynyk. Following Miami, we got the Brooklyn Nets. In 2019, the Nets had an amazing offseason as DeAndre Jordan, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant all came to Brooklyn. Now, there are some question marks surrounding potential health issues and off-court drama, but if Steve Nash manages to keep the head of his 2 superstars straight, then the Nets are going to be really good because they are very talented. Spencer Dinwiddie, Caris LeVert, and Joe Harris are there to rely Kyrie and Durant with scoring. DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen are taking care of the interior sector, and the Nets have some good complements with the experienced Taurean Prince and one of the best young shooters in the league, Landry Shamet. And finally, at number 1, we got the Milwaukee Bucks. If the Bucks clearly showed their limits in the playoffs, they remain nevertheless a very good regular season team. Led by the reigning back-to-back MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, Milwaukee ended up with the best record in the league for those past 2 seasons, and they should be motivated to achieve that once again after a disappointing second-round exit. The Bucks made a pretty big move this offseason as they traded for Jrue Holiday, an underrated player who brings shooting, playmaking, and defense. And while they did have to give up a lot to acquire him, I guess it's a win, since it was enough for Giannis to sign a 5-year, $228 million Supermax extension. Outside of Jrue Holiday, Giannis can count on the help of Chris Middleton, an over 20 points per game scorer who was active in the 50-40-90 club last season, Brook Lopez, who adds defense and shooting, DJ Augustin as a backup point guard, and other good role players with Bobby Portis, as well as Torrey Craig and Dante DiVincenzo, who both bring more defense.